Hi again guys, and welcome to episode 20 of Global Contenders, the review series for, of course, the touring car selection of Gran Turismo. In particular, for the moment at least, Gran Turismo 6. We may well get, of course, new touring cars in future Gran Turismo games, but for now, these are the ones that we're working with. And some of these vehicles are, of course, real, others are not real, and some of them are very historically significant. In particular, there are, say, 5 or so vehicles which are historically well known in touring car racing in particular, and this is possibly the most historically valuable touring car in the game. It's the only touring car, in effect, of the time period featured on Gran Turismo. And the car is, of course, the Mercedes 190E Cosworth DTM touring car. Now, this car doesn't really have any direct natural rivals on the game, and that really is a shame, because in the real world it had some great rivals, most notably, of course, the BMW E30 M3 DTM touring car, which was this car's direct rival. We don't, though, have that car on the game, so this car kind of feels a little bit lonely. It doesn't have any direct rivals. And the problem with that is due to the fact that it is an older DTM machine, as good as it is, and this really is a good car. It's really light, it has superb handling, it's a joy to drive, and it's a fantastic collector's piece, but it's kind of like a couple of other vehicles on the game, such as the Jay Leno tank car, the Tickford, as I call it, it's not called that anymore on the game, but the Ford Falcon V8 supercar, and various others that are alone. They're the only vehicles of their kind in the game, and they just don't have rivals that are close enough to be completely legitimate, in effect. Now, you can pit this car, of course, up against other touring cars, but the problem is, due to the fact that the car's age is different and the specs are different, etc., the way, especially when fully tuned, that this car falls into a performance category all of its own means that it's too good to put up against the majority of fictional touring cars, such as your Mazda 6 touring cars, your Toyota Altezza touring car, various other ones like that. But at the same time, it's not good enough to take on the more extreme DTM machines, such as the Alfa Romeo 155, the Calibra, the Astra, the CLK, the A4, the TTR, and various others. It's not fast enough, for the most part, to take on those cars, but it's too fast for the other ones. So again, it kind of falls into a bit of a no man's land, and that really is a shame, because this is a brilliant car. Now, if you go away from the touring car category, you can use this car a lot. It's a very useful racing car to have, and there are plenty of places, especially for PP specific racing, where you can use it effectively. It's a fantastic grip and handling car. On twisty circuits, it will easily dominate most other cars of a similar spec, and it's a great, as I already said earlier, collector's piece. It's a beautiful car to have in any collection, especially a historical racing one. And the price isn't ridiculous. It costs 1.25 million credits, which is around the same kind of price as some of the newer ones. And for that price, you get a 2.5 litre Cosworth engine, rear-wheel drive. It's extremely lightweight, one of the lightest touring cars in the game, in fact, at 980 kilos. It puts out 615 horsepower fully tuned, which is not bad at all. And the torque, which isn't overly high, but at the same time for a 2.5 litre engine is certainly not bad at 340 foot-pounds. Now, the horsepower per tonne is pretty good due to the fact that it weighs less than a tonne to begin with, so 628 horsepower per tonne is not bad at all. As far as PP, it seems to be really good, and in a way it is. The PP on this car is 586, which is perhaps seemingly lower than it should be. But that does mean that it's a direct rival for cars like the Calibra and the Alfa Romeo 155, and although to some degree it can rival them, it's not an awful car or slow car by any means, especially in terms of handling. It can rival those, but they're just faster in a straight line. So yes, you can use it against them if you choose to, but it almost feels misplaced to do that. It's from a different era, it has completely different attributes and downsides to those cars, and although you'd assume that it would be very similar, it's kind of not. It feels like a completely different machine to those vehicles. Now, for a beginner-friendly race car, this is an excellent one. It's one of the best handling cars and has some of the best drivability features of all of the race cars and touring cars that have been on Gran Turismo through any game. Is it the best handling car in the game? No, I would never claim that. But for the power that it's putting down, it's really easy to drive. There are plenty of vehicles with over 600 horsepower that would be getting the tail out, shredding the tyres, especially when they've got less weight to ground that power to the road. This car doesn't. It just gets on with it. It does the job. It doesn't make a fuss about anything. It just goes around corners in particular very quickly and will go decent enough down the straights. So if you do decide to use this for racing, and I wouldn't try to put anyone off from using it for racing, it's certainly an excellent race car, just be careful when and where you choose to use it, because this is a vehicle which definitely has its uses, but its straight line performance, particularly mid-range and top end, does mean that on certain tracks in particular it will fall behind not just other touring cars but other race cars in general, and sometimes even compared to road cars. So as a collector's piece, and for racing under certain circumstances, it's a brilliant car, especially in a race collection in fact. Just be careful when you choose to utilise this car. But that's it overall for this particular pick. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.